Hey, 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 hey. Welcome to the theElpyDimension. I am Elpy. Let's see how quick I can make this. So, I've been thinking about my garden. And this year, there have been I have been very neglectful for a lot of different reasons. I haven't been out here doing the things I want to do. I've had a lot of disease issues, particularly with my tomatoes. I've had a lot of pest pressure. See this? How this is pulled away? Yeah, pest pressure. Groundhog. This one winter luxury pumpkin. See all the little missing ends? Yeah. However, I swear, every time I start recording, a plane flies over. It's like they wait. Yeah, see this? Disease on my cantaloupe. Right, pest pressure. Check this out. Not that. This was laying down, and it's miraculously still alive, my okra plant. Groundhog pulled it down so it could eat the leaves. They were laying on the ground, and I can't believe it. They're still alive. I don't know if this is even edible now. Actually, someone in my comments told me that they even woody okra, that they dry it and use it as a powder. I should try that. Pest pressure all over the place, right? I had a cantaloupe in here that me nor the previous groundhog knew about, apparently, and I was super excited, and then a different groundhog showed up and ate it. Anyways, acorn squash, this is a volunteer. Those plants look really bad, but all of that. Oh, and my tomatoes, butternut squash, I'll be happy if I just get the one. My tomatoes didn't taste good. The orange muscat, yeah, that's why they're still sitting there. They don't taste good, and I hope that if the critters get to eat those, they'll be less hungry to keep fighting for other stuff. Sumter cucumber, the plants are dead essentially, so I let that guy get big to save for seeds. See, we're almost to 3 minutes, and I've just been, anyways. Tomato fruits, a lot of them, I felt like something wrong with my taste buds. That's disease, those black dots. And then we've had a lot of rain this summer, which was great, and then we haven't had rain. And admittedly, I let a lot of things like this, there is an orange peach tomato that was there, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to let that go to the critters. But then there are the other critters that would prefer leaves, and they ate the Yugoslavian squash plant that's still trying to grow. But anyways, so when my tomato fruit didn't taste as I would hope, I kept saying to myself, this is a rather small early growth tomato, I kept saying to myself, my soil, of course. I've not been feeding the garden, barely, maybe 4 times this year, maybe. And that feeding for me consists of using 511 fish fertilizer and or fermented plant juice that I make, and or worm tea that I make with my own worm castings. And I've barely fed this year, barely. And that would explain why I don't have more watermelon, or the ones that I do have, why they aren't bigger. Never mind the pests, the critters eating the plants. This is a Roma tomato. And then it dawned on me the other day, and especially in the last month, especially since I strung up my tomatoes that I had just bushed over and that definitely helped the disease. But if you've seen any of my other videos, you've seen that I've had a lot of tomatoes. And I've had some really big tomatoes at that. Pepper plants, this is just one. I've never eaten this before. This is a Zabrange pepper. My flowers. Volunteer melon of some kind. Hasn't given me anything, but it's also been being picked on. This is a pineapple tomato. Pineapple tomato. That guy split because I've been busy and I haven't been out here. And see, this is not a good split. When a tomato splits, it's not always bad, as in don't mess with it. But at the same time, this has been split most likely because I didn't pick it in time. And I am going to leave it there and let something eat it, because even though I feel like I want to punish them and not let them get it, they're going to be back anyways. So anyways, my tomatoes, my harvest overall, have been tremendous. And the point I want to make is this, that my inputs into my garden are organic and local, in that largely local, like the fermented plant tea, if you will, that's local. That's weeds that I pull out of the garden. This is my Carolina cross. It hasn't gotten any bigger, but for me, this is a huge watermelon. I've never grown a watermelon to the point that I was able to eat it. My soil and all of these beds are hugelkultur, built in 2021, so 3 years ago. I know I was supposed to take this down. I pruned all the leaves off, and I was like, I need to go get a scissor and cut this down, and now it's growing back, because I'm supposed to keep it from competing with the watermelon. Yeah, and what happened to this bed? Yeah, the groundhog and blight. Despite all my pest pressure, despite all the disease that I've experienced in this garden, despite my own neglect, I have seen tremendous. Oh, this is very, very interesting. Pause. Squirrel moment. Do you see this? Yep. If you've ever seen this almost should be a short or something. If you've ever seen my video about invasive jumping worms, this is one thing they tell you to look out for. This sort of, and granted, yes, this is as clumpy as it is, crumbly, because it's dry. But this is why jumping worms are bad. Asian jumping worms, crazy worms, snake worms, these are all their names. Because they eat organic matter so fast that it is not able to be replenished in the soil. And it causes erosion in forests and depletes nutrients. And they say to look for this sort of coffee groundish, crumbly nature. And this bed, it is all over. Look at that. My Lord, I want to use a word. They are composting worms. I find them on the surface. Wow. This is, and I have found earlier this season, I think I did a video too, of me catching jumping worms in this bed in particular. That's very interesting. This bed has a lot of leaf litter on it, so I don't see that, but my goodness. Huh. Alright. This is evidence that this bed has a lot of jumping worms in it. because of the crumbliness of that. Not because it's dry, not just, but, well, that'll be another video to go through there and find them. Okay, where was I? Point, yes. I was supposed to be done by now so that I had positioned my hose so it would just stay in place. And I'm like, okay, now you need to move it because you're not done. But I was saying that my soil, I've barely been feeding. All these beds are hugelkultur. I've had a lot of different pressures. Pests, disease, pests in the form of bugs and critters, mammals. I don't have bird pressure. I don't know if it's because there's an abundance of food. Anyways, and despite all of that and my barely feeding, my plants, my garden produces tremendously. And this is a nod to organic gardening and to feeding your soil, not your plants, to paying attention to the paying attention to the condition of your soil and the nutrients of your soil. And I'm not even referring to like doing tests. I'm just saying adding compost, adding vermicompost, worm tea, all natural, local ingredients when you can. Keeping your soil covered. I've not, for the most part, which when the leaves are dense in here, this soil is largely protected. This has been covered because until the cucumber died and some of the black-eyed peas are dying. But this is what it looks crazy now. It's wild and things are dying. It's always looked crazy. And yet, I am neglectful, can be a very lazy gardener. I have not been feeding, and my plants have still produced an abundance of food. So, pay attention to your soil. Talk to some others. Look into ways. You do not need chemicals. If you want to use them, that's on you. But I'm saying you do not need chemicals. Nature will balance herself. They say that a healthy plant doesn't need pesticides because the plant is essentially too healthy for the bugs. That healthy plants, healthy tomatoes have such a high level of sugar that it's too much for the plants to break down. Healthy plants have such a high abundance of sugar in their leaves, and I'm being very simple in my way of speaking, that it's too much for the bugs to eat. That's why you see bugs preying on diseased plants. That's why I had so many aphids this year. The aphids spread the blight, but they're also attracted to the plant that's covered in blight because it's a weak plant. So anyways, you don't need chemicals. You don't need, I know I use a store-bought 511, but I don't use synthetic fertilizer. So, I just want to say that even though I've had a lot of ups and a lot of downs this year, and even I was thinking that my soil must be like bad. My soil needs a lot of help because the flavor of my tomatoes is not as good as I would expect. Then I turn around and I'm saying, like, but dang is that giant grass? Yeah, that's lemongrass. This is a black beauty eggplant. My garden has been producing without me doing much to the soil, but I've added grass clippings a couple of times this year. I add shredded leaves in the fall. Guys, let's put nature back in charge. Let's work alongside her. Okay, she's in charge, when you don't cut your grass, but you know what I'm saying. Let's work with the earth, not against her. Thanks.